If you have that mentality with whatever it is that you're going through, that's how you can become unbreakable. That's how nothing at all in this world can keep you down. I want you to be unbreakable because you have mental strength. And that all comes from stoicism, focusing on what you can control and not worrying about all the outside factors. My life has been changing. I want your life to change. I want you to get better outcomes out of life. And I know if this reaches one person who needs it, I've fulfilled and completed my purpose and my intention for this episode. The topic of this episode is centered around mortality. And I asked my audience if they feared death. And a lot of people said no. And some people said yes, they do. But I'll be honest with you, before I really dove deep into the information that I've been studying when it comes to Stoicism, I would say that yes, I've had a deep fear of death because I want to accomplish things. I want to make an impact. I want to leave a legacy. And I think that's a natural feeling to have. But the more I study Stoicism, the more I'm starting to realize that you should not fear death. Marcus Aurelius, he said, you should not fear death. I want to get the quote exactly right and not misquote him. Let me get it pulled up. Great Roman emperor and great Stoic philosopher. He said this, Marcus Aurelius. He said, it is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. That hit home with me because if you get caught up in worrying about things you can't control, about when your demise is going to come or when you're going to no longer be on this earth as a mortal, you can get lost in that because you have no control when you really think about it on when that's going to happen. And you could get lost in the worry and the doubt and the possible regrets if you're not mindful that one day that's going to happen. And from the time that I have now leading up to when I go, what am I going to do about it is what you need to think about. Because regret comes from not fulfilling or not doing what you can here in this moment until that date, that expiration date. That's where true regret comes from, not doing what you could in the time that you've had. Because the Stoics believed that if you live a life where you build your character, you seek knowledge, you seek wisdom, you teach others, and you live according to your code and your purpose, when you eventually go, you will have a good death. You will not leave anything on the table. No bullets in the chamber, figuratively speaking. You let it all out there. You left it all out in the field for my sports fans. Leave it all out on the field. Ask yourself, did I do everything that I can or I could have today to reach what I want to reach or do what I want to do? You have to think about it like this. Marcus Aurelius, he also had another quote that I'm very fond of, and he said this: let each thing you would do, say, or intend be like that of a dying person. Let each thing you would do, say, or intend be like that of a dying person. That puts things into perspective, at least for me. If you ask yourself, did the things that I did today, if it was my last day, Could I not wake up tomorrow and be okay and content with that and resign my post? Ask yourself that question. That hits home, right? Because when you ask yourself that question, it makes you appreciate the time that you have. I have another quote here, and something that's hit home to me that I got to listen to and got to take in from somebody I admire, Ali Abdaal. And he was speaking with Oliver Burkeman, the author of 4,000 Weeks. And he said this, and it really struck a chord with me. 4,000 weeks is in reference to everybody, if you live a full life here on this earth, has 4,000 weeks to live. 4,000 weeks. Put that into perspective. Oliver Burkeman says this: the harder you struggle to fit everything in, the more of your time you'll find yourself spending on the least meaningful things. The reason for this effect is straightforward. The more firmly you believe it ought to be possible to find time for everything, the less pressure you'll feel to ask whether any given activity is the best use for a portion of your time. Whenever you encounter some potential new item for your to-do list or your social calendar, you'll be strongly biased in favor of accepting it, because you'll assume you needn't sacrifice any other tasks or opportunities in order to make a space for it. If you never stop to ask yourself if the sacrifice is worth it, your days will automatically begin to fill not just with more things, but with more trivial or tedious things, because they've never had to clear the hurdle of being judged more important than something else. Oliver Burkeman. I found that important because I think what puts the fog over us, what blinds us in our day-to-day lives, is the menial task. It's the monotony. It's the routine. It's going through your day-to-day things that you do, whether it's commuting to work, completing tasks, speaking to people just kind of willy-nilly and not really thinking about what you're saying, small talk. What happens when you're doing all of that is you're not present. You're kind of just on autopilot. I know I felt this, and I feel this in my life. Sometimes we're just on autopilot in our lives, and we're not really present in the moment in our conversations. I've felt this before. And when I feel like that, there's a fog over my life and I'm not really truly living. So I encourage you throughout this week, with whatever you're doing in your life, try to be cognizant of where you are mentally and try to be more present in the conversations that you're having, because you'll never live today again. Everybody in this world, if you live a full life, you have 4,000 weeks to live. Make today count. Make this hour count. Make this minute count. Leave no regrets. Seize the day. It's yours. Have gratitude and appreciate it, because it's my position, it's my belief that embracing your mortality, recognizing that you have a finite amount of time here on this earth, will help you to be more centered, more grounded, and eventually to appreciate and to live out your true purpose.